Many employers now, especially government employers, have the strict penalties if you receive an injunction, even if the case is dismissed. One firefighter I spoke to said he was suspended without pay for 1 week, even though his case was thrown out.
My employer reviewed the domestic violence injunctions, and since we're a financial institution, they would constantly review employee files, and I was a director on the executive committee, and anybody who Googled my name, my picture came up as being arrested for the interference with custody. Nobody ever reads what the case actually says, no file, but domestic abuse on there twice, and
so before this you were considered an upstanding citizen, an honorable vet, and today you're facing this embarrassment.
Everywhere I go, and don't get me wrong, I'm trying to get back into corporate America. I've interviewed throughout the summer. I try every day, and I have to explain it to I get into the second interview every time and have to explain these things to the next employer.
These complaints create new victims. They create victims of the people they're calling in on.
Just the initial temporary injunction. Anytime that I get a loud knock on the door at home, it just instantly brings you back to that moment, and that'll never go away.
And this has cost you a lot of money.
Absolutely. You know, I've been fortunate that my family has been able to help me on a lot of this, but it's not right, it's not fair, and we've probably spent well over $30,000 at this point, and we're not done. We're absolutely not done. And it's just horrible. It's just absolutely wrong.
We went to court about 3 months ago to try and get that injunction taken off because I had a sick relative back in the UK, and I wanted the injunction off basically so that I could fly out of here and then fly back. And they refused it because they asked her if she were in fear of her life, and she said yes. She wasn't going to say no, so they refused that, and unfortunately my auntie died about a week later. You know, so that's quite sad that it affects you with your own family, not only on a monetary basis. You know, I mean, the cost up to now has probably cost me in the region of $35,000, and is still going on. She's actually taken a civil case out against me also, and I've had to employ another lawyer to handle that side, and it just seems to be going from bad to worse. But I'm an upbeat sort of person, and I try to shrug it off, but in reality it's a hellhole.
I had eyewitness testimony, government employees that witnessed what happened that morning. They all talked to DCF, they were all interviewed. DCF never investigated the whole case.
Lying works, it does benefit people, and in the court system, lying can go a very long way.
I spent 8 days in jail. I lost my home, my business, and my daughter.
The court told me that I had to do a 6-month VIP course.
Can you tell me what that consisted of? Tell me about the VIP class.
Oh, the VIP class. Oh, that's really good.
What is a batter's intervention program?
It's a state mandated program that back in 1993, the state of Florida, based on a lot of other states already doing it, adopted a program to put men into these classes to hopefully stop the spread of domestic violence in this state and all other states.
You know, if you want something to make you feel demoralized, join a BIP class.
Our program by the state requires at least 26 sessions. It's broke down into 24 groups, of which those are divided into 8 segments. And those segments are like 3 weeks apiece, and that's where we explore the different things from respect to non-threatening behaviors, and we have many things we have to go over with the clients.
You know, I've always been a law-abiding citizen. I've never done anything wrong to harm anybody, and yeah, I went on a 6-month course, and It was unbelievable, you know. And throughout that course, there was one section of it where you were basically asked to admit to something that you wouldn't do, and I refused to. And I told the guy that was running the course, I said, I am not admitting to something that I didn't do.
Most of the clients are charged with a misdemeanor and they're on what they call pre-trial. They satisfy all those requirements of their misdemeanor probation, take care of going to the program, and then it will be discharged from probation.
Did you complete that course?
I did, yes.
The Department of Justice said that men represented 39% of domestic violence victims. And they also stated in the report that it's probably higher since men are 9% less likely to report the crime. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah.
I have just as many women admitting they hit someone. And what produces a lot of these statistics, the fact is men, more often than not, understand the implications. They don't want to harm the record of their significant other. They don't want the consequences to roll from a domestic violence filing. And they're more forgiving in general about incidents like that.
How do you get this statistics? And, you know, who are the research people? Who are they asking? What questions did they ask? You know, how reliable are the answers?
She'd sprayed my private parts with aerosol bleach, and all this, you know, I basically just let it go.
Men are embarrassed. I mean, I'm 230 pounds. If my 130-pound wife smacks me, do you think I'm gonna go file an injunction?
I've talked to too many fathers. I've seen too much pain during this investigation. Men, grown men crying about their children, losing their children because of these false allegations. Can you tell us what your children mean to you?
They're my world. More than ever, you know, when you lose something, even if it's only 3 weeks, I'll do anything for them. And I don't want them ever to be hurt like this again.
I moved actually to be closer to the kids. That's the only reason I'm in Pasco County.
Now I have to watch my daughter growing up without her father in her life.
What they actually told my children were that I had done some really bad things and that I had left them.
These kids are being questioned about stuff that never happened. You know, when you start questioning a kid about a sexual assault that never occurred, it leaves an imprint on that child.
They are going to a psychiatrist and school counselor also.
In the early stages of development, I was pretty confident that gaining access to a courtroom or common areas in the court building should be no problem. Was I wrong? I soon found out that I was venturing into dangerous territory and the natives were not too friendly. I met with Grace Fagan, General Counsel for the 5th Judicial Circuit of the state of Florida, and she said, "You'll hear from me by end of next week with my decision." Not surprisingly, I received a letter the very next day rendering the denial of access.
A lot of times what I would see happen would be, let's say the man and woman are arguing, and the man wants to retreat from the situation. The woman blocks him out of the door, and the guy doesn't know any better, so he takes a hold of her and he moves her out of the way, because you can. And all of a sudden, he's touched her. That's a battery. It is an impermissible touching. So right there, he's committed domestic violence, and he didn't even intend to be violent. But it's in the midst of an argument, and boom, he gets the injunction against him.
Men get blamed for the obvious reasons. They tend to be bigger, they tend to be stronger, we have deeper voices, we're more intimidating at a glance in general, not the absolute rule, but in general. And the fact is, if you have a heated situation and a man and woman and destroyed assets and the police come, the default will be the male that is handcuffed and hauled away. That is the default, all else being equal.
I mean, to you guys out there, just be aware that you sometimes can't say what you think.
Get yourself a digital camera or one of these little disposable cameras and keep it where you can find it at all times. And if something happens, something's thrown, if there's a big fight, whatever, take pictures like there's no tomorrow.
Or, you just have to be always careful to not present a physical threat.
Get the hell out of the house, because you cannot be accused of violence if you're across town and you're separated miles from your spouse or significant other. So get out of the situation. It's a pressure cooker.
On the other hand, if you are being abused, call the police.
People who do that kind of activity, calling a false reports hotline, need to be aggressively prosecuted. And the people that call in real child abuse and real neglect, they need to be commended.
Obviously I have a green card, and now that's come into question, and as soon as the divorce is final, I have to go in front of Homeland Security and the Immigration Board and plead my case. So the investments I've made in America could be null and void, and they could ask me to leave. So it's not just the financial and the personal hurt that you feel. It's also the fact that you may have to be leaving a country that you love dearly.
I mean, I'm never going to be the same person either. It's a life-changing. It only takes once.
After I returned from Afghanistan and Iraq, I was going through a lot. It was a tough time over there, but after going through the family court system and dealing with the various judges and listening to their comments and just the crooked games the attorneys play and how you can be just ousted as a criminal just overnight for nothing and not knowing what to do, I seriously would rather be fighting in a war in Iraq or Afghanistan. I'd rather be back in combat than go through family court again. It's devastating.
I love you so much. And I really wish you could know the truth of how much your father really loves you.
What I think that is going on with our domestic violence system in the state of Florida is wrong. And basically what it pertains to is the domestic way that people acquire a domestic violence injunction. For someone to go into the clerk's office, it's a simple procedure to go in and say, I'd like to get, I'm a victim of abuse, and no matter how big or small, no matter what the claim, no matter what, if there's no evidence at all, no police reports, no photographs, no witnesses, nothing, almost 99% of the time they're issued an ex parte order of protection.
The worst part is what's done to our children, okay? Yes. My children were told, your daddy did bad things and he left you. Okay, they forced me out of my home and they tell my children that I left them. I've been very blessed. I have a majority of the time sharing with my children, but I'm continuing to fight. A year and a half later, Senator Fasano, my ex-wife, just 2 weeks ago, sorry, she was able to file another temporary injunction with false claims, just on her claims at the Pasco County Courthouse. We spent 2.5 hours in the courtroom to talk about all this money that needs to be spent. All this money, we need to come up with money. You guys think about how much money is being spent on these false allegations that get dismissed. That's what I want you to think about, and think about us fathers and children. Thank you.
Violence Against Women's Act, which we all know was passed in 1994 by Bill Clinton. Billions of dollars are allocated to groups that support victims of domestic violence, but only with women. When I looked into this, I found that there are no funds that are allocated to groups that support men with domestic violence, and that's what needs to change. Also, we need to start prosecuting people who commit perjury in a court of law.